There's a very fundamental question which a lot of people don't ask. Why is this parsha called Balak? Balak is someone who wanted to destroy the entire Jewish nation to the extent that he essentially hired a hitman to do the job for him. Bilam, the master of all curses, is able to curse the Jews and then try to eradicate the Jews over here. Why? Is there a parsha in the Torah named after someone who wanted to destroy us? So if we just zoom out,
Why not?
54, why not?
Yeah.
Are you serious or joking?
No, why?
He wanted to kill us. Why is he Zocha for prime real estate in the Torah and to the extent that a parsha is going to be named after?
You can only remember the good.
Your arch enemy, you're going to put a monument up and you're going to put what do you call those things? A plaque up to commemorate such an individual who wanted to kill you?
He's the only one.
Come
A
on.
bust? A
What
bust?
question are you saying?
He's the only one.
Let's zoom out for a minute. We have 54 parshas in the Torah. Out of the 54 parshas, 5 of them are named after someone.
Oh.
Second parsha in the Torah, Parshas Noach. We have Yisro, Sefer Shmos. We have Korach, which we just learned, and Balak and Pinchas, all in Bamidbar. Noach, we understand. The pasuk says that Noach was Yisadik Taima, the Rezerosiv. He was a righteous individual. That's an easy one to understand. Yisro, the father-in-law of Moshe Rabbeinu, we understand that that's easy. Korach, we have a Gemara in Sanhedrin. It's also a question, Korach. He made a rebellion. Why do we have a parsha after that? So the Gemara in Sanhedrin and Kuf Yudam Aleph, they were scholars. Great Talmidei Chachamim. Pinchas, he sanctified Hashem's name. Mekadesh Shem Shemayim. The Kano Kinos Hashem. He took up the vengeance. He saw something was wrong and he stood up for what was wrong. But Balak, why did Balak, the king of Moab, merit having a parsha after the Jews? So the Sefer Parpros, the Torah, in the introduction to this parsha, explains based on answers this question based on a Gemara in Sota.
We're talking about Shlomo Shmo.
No.
No?
The Gemara in Sota, Mem Zayin, says that it was in the reward of the 42 korbanos. Oh, Shlomo Shmo, you're saying? Okay, fine. So then, right. Very good. Very good. Very good. How did you know?
Remember that. That's great.
Okay, come on. Okay, so I thought you were talking about something else.
No.
So the 42 korbanos that he brought, he merited what?
Those guys,
As a
the kids
descendant?
got killed.
He merited Rus.
Well, he married a Rus, but also talking about the kids got killed.
Let's talk about Rus. Yeah. Who came from Rus?
David Melech.
Oh, so just like we see that Balak merited from those 42 korbanos, David HaMelech, so then so too, we could have a parsha named after him. That's the idea over here. Now, we have to ask a question about Balak. What was he thinking? You hired Bilam to curse the Jews, to obliterate them through power of speech. Speech has a lot of meaning. What?
He's scared.
Who was scared?
Balak.
Right. Okay, that's correct. But he knew that we were the chosen nation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He knew that we experienced for 40 years, what we experienced in the desert until that point. The special clouds that protected us. That we were led with the pillar of cloud, pillar of fire, nourished by bread from heaven. We had them on. Right? Lavan, Bilam's ancestor, wanted to uproot us once was unsuccessful. Paro had to send us out of Egypt. After he had the 10 Makos, all those plagues, he was almost drowned to death with the rest of his army at the sea. How then would Bilam think that he would be able to destroy them? All of these previous attempts were completely unsuccessful. How then would Bilam be successful? So Galinsky explains based on a Gemara in Tainus, which we just put the recording up on. Tainus Tafchaf. See there for more details. Gemara over there says that he compared us to a cedar tree.
Ooh.
The idea is if all the winds are going to come, they're not going to blow the tree down. However, when you get the southern wind, that could already uproot the tree. That could cause the tree to get toppled to the ground. What? Yep, that's right. And that wind represents the precise moment, explains Rabbi Galinsky, when Hashem would get angry. That's what that represents over here, the precise moment. And he could turn that anger in onto the Jewish people over here. That would be bad. In the end, he couldn't bring the storm enough to uproot and overturn us. And he declared for himself, Ma ezoim lo yiza'am Hashem. How could I curse him if Hashem didn't curse him? How could I do it? Rashi explains that Bilam could determine the precise moment, as we know from the Gemara and Brachos, where Hashem would get upset. However, he didn't become angry. Hashem didn't become angry because he knew that Bilam was going to curse him.
Yeah.
And furthermore, even if they would get cursed, Pasuk in Vayikra says, "Loi ma'astem v'lo galtem l'chalosim." I'm not gonna destroy him. Yeah, you gotta make noise. Do whatever you gotta do. All right. Instead of a cedar, rather like the Gemara over there says, they were like a reed. What's the idea with a reed? A reed. Oh, a reed. Staying the whole time this morning?
What is that?
You said you're staying the whole time this morning?
Yeah.
Good. He's here for the tire. Here for the tire. Here for the tire. All right. We were talking so far about what it is that why is this parsha called Balak? We already answered that. Narrative that he brought 42 korbanos. David descended. Therefore, so too the parsha is called that. Now we're discussing why did Balak think that he would be successful if he could curse the Jews? Everyone else failed beforehand, right? If he's going to hire Bilam to curse the Jews, why do you think? So he thought that we were like a cedar tree which could get uprooted through a southerly wind. That's what we saw so far. But in the end, he realized that what? No. Rather, we weren't like the cedar tree. Louder than I thought. All right. We weren't like the cedar tree. I don't know. It's just going to be a quick cut and then wrap it up.
So around the seat,
Gotta just
like a
make
reed.
space. There you go.
Right.
Okay. Rather, we're like a reed. It's a quick cut. Nice and quick. Good machine. What's that machine? What's that thing called?
Multi-tool.
Multi-tool?
Multi-tool.
Multi-tool?
Yeah, those are very good.
I gotta get one of those. It's good if I ever gotta do work. You have one?
One's the cheap one.
Multi-tool. Good to know.
Multi-tool.
Okay, the idea is that what? Rather, we were like a reed. We said, of course, we just put up the tiniest recording on this in the daf here. Put it up. What he's handling over here. The reed, the idea is that it bends. Goes back and forth. But guess what? It doesn't get uprooted. It just bends. Right? So that's true of the whole nation, our whole nation, and of each of us individually. Why? Because the Gemara in Sanhedrin and Daled, Yisrael afapi shechata Yisrael. The Yid, even if he sins, he's still a Yid. As we discussed in depth in the Yeshua recording, 73 shirim now up. Okay. Question is, why should one person be held accountable for everyone else's actions? Story with Achan, 36 people died after an eye. So that's the beginning of the 7th parak, 1 hour. Shir over there, 4 different answers. Right. We're compared to what? The reed. We keep going over here. As far as we could go, we're never going to get cut off from our root. This is tremendous chizuk to anyone who's a little off. Right? In short in the story, there's an amazing tzaddik over here in Yerushalayim, Rabbi Mordechai Chaim Kaz Tilanitz. He's known as Rav Motel Slonimer, and he was blind, but nothing could stop him from learning Torah.
Wow.
So he had shifts that were arranged, different people who are going to learn with him and read the Gemara, the Rambam, the Shulchan Aruch, etc. And basically, there was an episode that happened where people were starting to get disassociated from being Jewish, and their face are getting cut off, and all of these things. So the Chazon Ish made a meeting about this. And he said we have to save people. But with Matul, he said, whatever they try to do, it's not going to make a difference. We're going to end up being strong no matter what. Then he brings, based on another whole story, basically, there were two neighbors next to each other in a farm, and one of them had a very nice hen. It's very nice feathers. Another guy basically stole it. And he knew it was his neighbor that stole it, because who else would take it? So he came on his door, he said, let me in. He said, it's early in the morning, give me a few minutes. He said, what am I going to do? Or am I going to hide the hen? You know, they didn't have a 10-bedroom house back then. So he said, oh, I have an idea. I'll pluck all the feathers. So he plucked them. So he walked in and finally got them in the house stink. He plucked the feathers. It doesn't smell like roses. So he found the hen. He was looking all over. He stuffed it under the bed, and he finally said, "That's mine." He says, "No, it's not yours. It had feathers. This didn't have feathers." They took it to the Beis Din and everything, and they said, "What do you mean?" The halacha is whoever's holding it, right? He has dibs. He has dibs. Finished. So that's what they said back. So then they said, "You know what? The judge said I have an idea." All three of them with the hen. They went to the border of the property. They put the hen down. And then one of the people went to one side of his property, the other went to the other one. The hen automatically went to the right owner, one who was stolen from. It's the same thing over here. He said, let us see which one's dashed in the right way. They might cut the payas off. They might try to change the clothing. But at the end, we're always going to return to Hashem. Yosef Shlomo Kahaneman says something amazing idea. The Panovich of the Mishnah in Maseches Kalim, in Perek Yud Zayin, Mishnah Yud Gimel says, follow this, because if you follow it, you'll see this amazing idea. You have to follow this and think about it for a minute. Kol shebiyam tahor. Any creature that lives in the ocean is pure. It's tahor, it's good. Chutz mekelav hamayim. Except for the dog in the water. In English, we call this like a sea otter. You know, those things. You. That thing. Why is that not pure? Says the Mishnah, because it runs to dry land. What's this referring to? Explain in a minute. A leather vessel, such as a wallet, or a leather garment, that could become tough. That's already a pasuk in Vayikra in Yud Aleph Lamed Beis, and Chazal explain in the Torah's Kohanim that it is specifically the hide of land animals that become impure. But let's say if you have a wallet, and the wallet is made of the hide of a whale skin. They have such wallets, yeah? So that would not become impure. Yeah? A little technical but follow. But the Bartanura explains that the sea otter, the otter, is the only creature in the ocean that when it's being attacked, seeks refuge on land. When it's being hunted, that's the only one. So therefore it's considered a land animal in this regard. And it could become tamei, impure, like a land animal. Actually, it's so funny. They have videos you could check online that surfaced about how there were sharks in the water and there was a boat nearby and the otter jumped on the boat to seek refuge. I've seen a video before about this.
The otter surfaced.
What?
The otter surfaced.
Yes, surface to where? To land or to a boat. Yeah, that's what we're saying. So they could become tummy because they don't have the status of what? Of a land creature. The Panovich says, do you see the message from this? Why are we talking about sea otters? What does this have to do with Balak? The answer is we see from this. The otter spends the whole day in water. It swims, it plays there, it's nourished by the fish in the sea. But guess what? When it gets into trouble with the hunters, where does it go? It flees to the land as if it was a land animal. A Yid, a Jew, he could wallow. He could be involved with all the filth of a non-religious lifestyle his entire life. But if in a time of trouble he turns to the rabbi, he says, Rabbi, please daven for me. Pray for my well-being, I need you. He visits the Kaisel and he prays over there at the Kaisel, davens to Hashem at the Kaisel. He's considered a Yerushalayim, a God-fearing individual.
Right. So I mean, just take a step back. This whale skin.
Yeah.
That's just an example of a fish. We don't care about whales.
The whale has status of fish, yeah.
And so that's your point with the whale. Right?
Yeah, it's a regular
Whale-
fish that
whale
stays in the
typical
water the
fish.
whole time, yeah.
Otter is special.
Because it goes on the
Okay,
dry
yeah.
land. So the idea is, even though the otter spends the whole time in the sea, he comes out for help. So too a Jew, he's going to come out. He's going to realize I shouldn't be living that non-religious lifestyle that I was living. The winds, they keep blowing, they try to uproot us. The Yetzer Hara, that evil inclination, we just put out a quick share Pirkei Avos. What is the evil inclination? It comes up, you know what it is though. It comes up and it tries to break us. The streets that surround us try to break us. All these outside influences that are bad. They could cause us to bend. To read. But they're not going to uproot us. Because we're going to say Shalom. That's the idea, man. There's a story about the Matal Slonimer that we just quoted about his father. He relates. He was transcribing the Divrei Torah of the Yesod Havoida Slonim. Amram Weinberg. And one night, when he was falling asleep, he did his usual soul searching. He felt he didn't do anything right that day. When I davened in shul, my tefillos weren't done right. I didn't have any kavanah. The learning that day, barely learned anything. The mitzvahs, they weren't even mitzvahs. It was all my thoughts. I didn't control myself. My speech. What was he gonna do? He was gonna go to his Rebbe, but it was already late. But he said, maybe I'll just check out, see what's going on, my Rebbe. It's too late to knock, so he just went in. He was practically a member of the household. The Rebbe was sitting at the table facing the door, and his head was in his hands, and he was doing his soul searching before going to bed. And he said, "Oh, my tefillos weren't tefillos," the Rebbe said. My learning wasn't the learning. My mitzvahs weren't the mitzvahs, and it says in the Zohar and the Tikkuni HaZohar, any mitzvah that's not done with yirah, with ava, with the fear of Hashem, love Hashem, it doesn't ascend on high. Where's the fear? Where's the love? And he started crying between his fingers, and tears are trickling down. Suddenly he shouted, "Oh, Rabbeinu Shalom, I may be distant, but I'm still connected." Rabbi Yehuda Leib had the answer. And then he closed the door behind him. If the Rebbe was worried about this, it's also true of us. We might be distant, but we're still connected. That's the idea over here. We're still connected. That's the idea. You know, the Torah is compared to fire. Well, before we go to the fire, there's a Gemara in Shabbos and Agadah. It's Peiches. Moshe went to the heaven to receive the Torah, and the angels came along and said, "Hashem, what's a mortal flesh and blood doing up here?" Hashem said to Moshe, "No, give him an answer." Moshe said, "Hashem, I'm afraid that they're going to burn me with their breath that they're speaking of their mouth." Hashem said, "Grab hold to the Kisei HaKavod, my throne, and give him an answer." Grab hold, give him an answer. I said, okay. So he said, "What's going on over here?" We have to analyze this Gemara. Why would it be that the angels are going to burn Moshe from the breath of their mouth just because he's giving them a reply. And how is grabbing onto the throne of Hashem going to protect Moshe? What does that mean exactly? This is very esoteric over here. I thought we explained it. The answer is like this. I mean, one answer is going to be multiple answers. There's a thing here. We have to explain the concept of fire. Everything that he's about to say, I already have all my notes. We actually discuss this in Tainas Zayinim at Aleph. All these ideas. The Torah is compared to fire. It's a pasuk in Yirmiyah Halo Kol Devar Keish. Torah is compared to fire. The Gemara says that the bodies of the Talmidei Chachamim, scholars, are like fire. Gemara then the Chagiga. Slav Zayin. The Torah was given in fire at the beginning of the Bamidbar Rabbah. When the rabbis used to learn Torah, there was fire that descended from heaven and surrounded them. The Gemara in Sukkot Kof Chesed Aleph with Yonasan ben Uziel, any bird that would fly over him immediately would burn. Machlekes Rashi Tosfos. He was either teaching angels, and therefore there was fire over there, or they were learning like it was Har Sinai, and therefore, just like Har Sinai, there was fire, so too over here. A pillar of fire would descend. Also, we see from Chagiga and Yud Beis with Elisha ben Avuya, Tosfos over there, his father, there was a lot of fire when they were learning. A pillar of fire would descend from heaven when they would be learning the relevant halachas during Elul, Tosfos, Brachos, Yadain. The Stipler Gaon says something very interesting. A person could survive for more than a moment on dry land, in the sea, and in the air. Think about it. We could survive on dry land, in water, and if we're in the middle of the air for a little bit of time, we could survive. But we can't survive in fire. If we go in a fire for a minute, it's going to be bad news, a big fire. For man, fire is a realm that's completely unobtainable. We can't connect the fire. Right? We have to understand that our grasp of Torah is limited, partial, superficial. The Vilna Gaon says Torah is temimah. Person cannot penetrate the inner depths of the Torah. Impossible. It's like a fire. The Torah is like a fire. It's too hot to touch the whole fire. It's too hot. Even this Talmidei Chachamim, they're like fire. You can't fathom. Right? When you get to a certain level, back then they become fire, something that we can't attain, or it's very, very difficult nowadays. Based on this, we could understand what Moshe was saying. Moshe was saying, if I would tell the angels I came to receive the Torah, to learn it, to fulfill the mitzvahs, they're going to burn me. They're going to say that the Torah is unattainable for men. The angels would reply, "Arufa me'eretz mido rechava minayam." Too big. Like the Shla writes in his introduction, Odom im yichya elov shana pa'amim lo yale v'gila tachlis mitzvah ad amko v'shorish v'shorish. Person can live thousands of years, he won't even be able to understand the purpose of the one mitzvah, properly with its depths, with its roots. Just think about that statement for a minute. A couple thousand years, even one mitzvah, abandoned properly. Think about it. On top of that, we're loaded and full of deficiencies, shortcomings. How could we be deserving of the Torah? So you know what Hashem said? Grab that throne. What would that accomplish? When Moshe would grab the throne, that would demonstrate that the neshama, the soul, is completely fashioned from beneath the throne of Hashem, beneath the Kisei HaKavod, as the Zohar explains, as the Gemara in Chagiga Daf Yud explains. And therefore, which no, you angels, you think that you're in such a high level over here? On the contrary, our souls come from the throne of Hashem Himself. We're at a higher level than you, angels. That's the idea over here. Deep idea to an esoteric Gemara over here. That's the idea over here. The Gemara talks about, well, when you see a Talmud Chacham, specifically a Torah scholar, a Jewish sage, you say a special bracha, Baruch shecholok mechachmaso lireyev. You say, blessed are you, Hashem, shecholok. What does cholok mean? Chelek. You distributed, separated, right? You imparted from your wisdom to those who fear you. When you see a sage that isn't Jewish stuff, what do we say? Baruch shenoson mechachmaso lebasav adam. We say, blessed are you, Hashem. You gave your wisdom to mortal flesh and blood. Now, brachos nunches, yeah? So it comes up Torah Shulchan Aruch as well. Now the second half, we could already understand the difference between the second half of the bracha, that the Jewish scholar is called Lireyev, someone who fears you. However, as opposed to the other one, it might not be the same as the fearing. Rather, it's basav adam, mortal flesh and blood. But why do we say chalak? Imparted. Right? Specifically by a Jewish scholar, by someone who isn't. We say nasan, he gave. What's the difference between he distributed, he imparted, versus he gave? Good question. The Taz asked this question, or Chaim, Siman Rachel of Dalit. You hear the question? Difference between nasan and chaluk? Listen to this answer. Taz says, I've seen many answers to this question, but it seemed to me that the most fundamental answer to this question is as follows. Yid, Jew, always come to Hashem. The word chaluk, we have to know something is being imparted from a different source. It goes from one source to another. It's imparted. It's a portion of it. It's a chelek. Right? So this word conveys that one thing is being shared between the giver and the receiver. There is, in other words, a relationship between the noisin and the makabel, the giver and the receiver, Hashem and the Talmid Chacham. However, in other nations, they don't have that same relationship, the giver-receiver relationship. And therefore, when it comes to gifts, someone's giving a gift, you have to give a certain type of gift. When you're giving a gift, can you give whatever you want, or it has to be a certain type? Yeah, exactly, whatever you want. Whatever you want, and the receiver is going to get it whether he likes it or not. That's the idea between the difference of chaluk and asin. With this idea, we can understand the statement in the Mishnah. Someone who worships an idol is like the idol that he's worshiping. As the pasuk said, certainly someone who worships Hashem is going to be similar to Hashem. That's the idea over here. Reb Chaim of Volozhin said to Devarim Rabbah, he was once learning the Tana de Beliyahu, and he saw that there were praises of Hashem, and one of them is Sameach b'chelko. Hashem is content with his lot. Hashem is satisfied with what he has. What's the obvious question on this? That's what we say about people who want more than they have. Say, be happy with your portion, be happy with your lot. How could this apply to Hashem? He created everything in the world with just one word. He wants something, he'll simply create it. How could we say that Hashem is Sameach v'chalko, is happy with his lot? How do you answer? The Chaim of Volozhin couldn't rest until he found the answer to this question. He immediately got on a wagon and he traveled to his Rebbe, the Vilna Gaon, to ask this question, and on the spot, the Gra answered as follows. What does his portion mean? The wording of the Medrash is exact, precise. He is happy with his portion. What is the portion? It's a pasuk. It's an explicit pasuk. Chelek Hashem Amo. Pasuk in Dvarim Aleph Beis. His portion is his people. So what's the question? If he wants more, he could create more. But in this area, his power is limited, so to say. Why? Because Hakol Bidei Shamayim Chutz Mir Shamayim. Everything in the hand of heaven except the fearing heaven. Again. Free will. So he wants all of Klal Yisrael collectively as a whole, each Yid on an individual level, to be as great and perfect as they could be. So he gave them opportunity to become great. Why? Free will, free choice. You could decide to fear me or not. You got free will over here. Even so, says the Vilna Gaon, he's happy with his portion, with each and every Jew. No matter what we are, even though we could improve tremendously, exactly where we are. Parent knows the child isn't perfect, but the parent loves the child. Same idea over here. He's happy with his portion, and he's going to preserve the connection. Kol makom shagalu shechina imahim. Wherever they're in exile, the divine presence is with them. Mara Megillah. That's a typo. No such
Yeah,
doubt.
no, it's a tough.
No such doubt. As low as we fall, he's with us. Hashoichin itam b'toich tumasam, the pasuk says. Pasuk says, Min ha'meitzar karasi ka. We call out to Hashem. That's what it is, no matter where a person is. Let's talk about Bilam curses, which turned into brachas, blessings. He said, Ke'is yomer liYaakov Yisrael ma'apa hakel. Going to be said to Yaakov and Israel, what has God brought over here? What did he do? Rashi explains that in the future, Asida Lavo Eisha Tegala. In the future, it's going to be redeemed over here. And everyone's going to see what's going on with the angels. And they're going to ask what happened. This is everyone. This is the idea over here. The message is that from this that we see, the message is that, Bilam thought he could get something out of it. Bilam thought we were like the cedar tree. He thought we could be uprooted with that southerly wind, but he didn't realize we were like the reed. No matter how far a person goes, he's always there. We spoke out in Yeshua in the second parak. Rachav used the rope. What's the symbolism? I sit with the rope, with the window. Forgive me with these. So we discussed one idea behind the rope. Binyamin Eisenberg and Mesilas Nevi'im, that Chevel, we're compared to this rope. One idea is a rope. No matter how far a person is from the other side of the rope, someone's holding one end, the other person is holding the other end. They're connected to each other because they're holding onto the rope. So too, we have this rope. No matter how far a person goes, that they realize it could always come back. We're about to discuss this in the 9th parak about tshuva, repenting. We're coming up to Elul soon, not yet, but very soon. This is the message of the parsha. No matter how far, no matter what, there's always room to come back. It's a very important lesson, very deep message. And also, we got some insight in the beginning why it's Balak, because the merit, you see every little thing that a person does is meaningful. Anyways, it was an important message to learn about. Mitzvah Hashem, tomorrow we will continue.
That's what I was up to in Yeshua with the Yakar that they were quoted with Shavuos or whatever, that Torah is acceptable every day,
Oh, yeah.
all the time.
Correct.
Tshuva and Yom Kippur is bad, more respectful.
Correct. Yeah, that's an interesting
what
thing. Torah every single day. Tomorrow, what we're going to do, we're going to finish the whole simon tomorrow.
Okay.
We really finished everything already. We're going to do just a little Piskei Teshuvos, and then there's going to be one Be'er Halacha, which he's going to say, Agav, tangentially, since we're talking about if you could get a haircut on Shabbos, we're going to talk about some of the halachas until where you're allowed to cut on your hair, shaving.
Oh.
So there's going to be a Be'er Halacha on that. Those are the pictures in the Oz V'Hadar Mishnah Berurah of people's hair.
I remember reading
So we're gonna discuss the haircuts and the location that's being tomorrow. Then we're gonna get a review session, and tomorrow's Thursday. That'll be Friday. So then next week we'll start next segment. After we move. We move. That's what we do. Right. All right. Everyone, have a wonderful day.
Sure. Have a good day.
Earthy.